Good evening and welcome to the June 2024 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thanks everyone for bearing with us in that transition. Thank you all for joining us in person at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center and remotely via WebEx. I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. With me in person today are my fellow board members Amanda Bogner, Mike Kavanaugh, Matt Core, Sarah Howard, Janice Moloff, Craig Moody, and Mary Spurgeon. We also have President and CEO Javier Fernandez, Steve Bruckner, our General Counsel with the Fraser Stryker Law Firm, and members of our board meeting support staff. OPPD's executive team and subject matter experts are also participating in today's meeting in person and via WebEx. Additionally, we currently have approximately 15 members of the public at the Civic Center and 20 attendees on WebEx, consisting of OPPD employees and members of the public. Thank you for joining us this evening. I will now ask a member of OPPD's physical security team to provide the safety briefing for our location and for Javier Fernandez to provide other safety reminders.
Good evening and welcome. We'll start off with a quick safety briefing. As usual, if anybody needs to exit the building in case of an emergency, we'd use the stairwells on either side of the building to head outside of the area. If in the event of any major weather or storm events, we'd use the stairwell to go down to the garage area and take shelter. We also have other fire suppression and first aid equipment in the back, as well as AEDs. If anybody needs any assistance, please let us know. We'll get you assistance as quickly as we can. We also have the deputies in the room as well that can provide assistance. Also be aware of any trips or falls or any environmental hazards that might be in the area. Watch out for those. Be cognizant of the severe weather that we consistently have here almost daily. Luckily, I think we're good and safe today. So with that, I'll turn it back over and have a great meeting.
Thank you, Josh. Always important to talk about the physical safety aspects of the meeting. From a psychological safety perspective, I focused on Tuesday on the culture of curiosity, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute on the next slide. Very, very important for us to embrace that and welcome that culture of curiosity. From a cybersecurity perspective, I reminded everyone of the importance of taking our training, staying up to date on cybersecurity threats. Bad actors are getting smarter and better by the day, and it's easier and easier to fall prey for cybersecurity attacks. So it's always be on the lookout for those. Our focus for this month, June, of course, if you've been around and out and about, today's relatively hot and it's certainly humid. So heat-related illnesses, which results from the body's inability to handle a particular heat load, whether it be temperature or humidity, it's definitely something that we keep an eye out. Includes heat rash, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. That's probably the one that we are focused the most, as we have our employees working out in the elements, either on our transmission, distribution system, but especially inside of our power plants where the temperature can get really hot. Very important, very, very important for us to keep an eye on heat-related illnesses. Our recommendation is to hydrate really well. You have to hydrate at least 24 to 48 hours before you're going to be in these conditions. Drinking a glass of water an hour before you go into these conditions, it's usually not very effective. So it's very important for all of us to be very intentional. The culture of curiosity that I mentioned just a few minutes ago on our psychological safety topic is really shown here on the questioning attitude. The attitude of being sure before, during, and after taking an action. Not only is it important for us to ask questions if you don't know the answer, if you have any doubt, but also for us to be welcoming of that questioning attitude. Seeking to understand, putting your ego aside and saying, hey, someone else wants to know, and maybe I don't have all the answers, and just having that questioning attitude, incredibly important for our psychological safety, and I think for all the decisions that we have to weigh in here at OPPD. Lastly, as I mentioned earlier, our employees are out in the elements, working outside, and also for members of the public, just a good reminder of poisonous plants and insects. We don't live necessarily in a state where we have a ton of these, but we certainly have poisonous plants and insects. So it's very, very important for us to be aware, know what to do in case of coming in contact with any of these. And that concludes my safety briefing.
Thank you very much. Now let's run through the guidelines for conduct of this meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on OPPD.com. This meeting is being conducted in person with WebEx conferencing and is being recorded. Our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are part of the official public record. After the introduction of action items, board members will ask clarifying questions from staff, and then I will ask for public comment. After public comment, the board will conduct its discussion of the matter and then vote. Also, before we adjourn, there will be an opportunity to comment on any other matters of district business. We will take comments in the room first and then via WebEx. For in-person attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please line up behind the microphone in the center of the room. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we will use the timer that is in the room. Ms. Lane will signal when you have 30 seconds remaining, as well as when time is up. If you have written materials, please deliver them to Ms. Lane. For WebEx attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please send the meeting host a message using the chat feature and utilize the hand raise feature. Detailed instructions can be found on the OPPD website at the link shown on the screen. When I call on a member of the public to speak, please affirm that we can hear you before commencing your comments. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we will use the timer on screen and signal when you have 30 seconds remaining, as well as when time is up. If you have written materials, please email them to corporatesecretary@oppd.com, and they will be received on our behalf. For all attendees, please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or officer of the district. The board values and welcomes civil, respectful, clear, and concise communication from the public. During public comments, speakers should refrain from repetitious, profane, or irrelevant comments. Speakers shall refrain from pulling the board, as such vote is not on the agenda and is prohibited by law. Ms. Lane, will you please take the roll call?
Director Bogner,
Here.
Director Kavanaugh,
Here.
Director Core,
Here.
Director Howard,
Here.
Director Mulhoff,
Here.
Director Moody,
Here.
Director Spurgeon,
Here.
Director Williams.
Here.
Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald, OPPD outlets newsletter, oppd.com, and social media, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on June 14, 2024. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for inspection on oppd.com and in this meeting room. The consent agenda action items are as follows. Item 6, approval of the April 2024 financial report, May 2024 meeting minutes, and the June 2024 agenda. Item 7, dedication of real property to the City of Omaha near 104th and State Street, Omaha, Nebraska, resolution number 6650. Item 8, award RFP number 6144, substation class power transformer, resolution number 6651. Item 9, award RFP number 6137, 2024 supplemental labor resources distribution overhead and underground, resolution number 6652. And item 10, SD2 rates monitoring report, resolution number 6653.
There are no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve these items.
So move.
Second.
We discussed these action items at the all committee meeting on Tuesday, April 16th. Do any members of the public in the room have comments on these consent agenda items? If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium in the center of the room. Seeing none, do any members of the public on WebEx have a comment on the consent agenda items? Please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users can press *3 to raise their hand. Do you have any comments online? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Director Bogner,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Core,
Yes.
Director Howard,
Yes.
Director Mulhoff,
Yes.
Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion carried. The board discussion action item, the first one is as follows. Corporate officer performance reviews and compensation adjustments, resolution number 6654.
So moved.
Second. Sorry, I thought we were going to read something.
Nope.
All right. This resolution is about compensation adjustments for our corporate officers. And we very much look at how we compensate our executive leadership team as, a way to certainly retain that talent here at the district, but then also acknowledge the significant amount of work that they have accomplished over the last year. Javier, would you like to address us at all?
Certainly. Thank you, Director Wagner. As I mentioned on Tuesday at the committee meeting, we have a robust performance evaluation process that goes for every single member of the organization. In this case, I'm going to talk about 9 members of the executive leadership team. One member who's not in here is Gina Langle, who just joined a few months ago and hasn't had a full cycle for evaluations. A few principles that I mentioned on Tuesday, we are staying very much in alignment with the rest of the organization. When you have a meets expectations rating or an above expectations rating, and it's basically staying in the same salary range change with a 3.25% meets expectations, 4.25% increase for above expectations. Additionally, in addition to the merit increases based on each executive's performance and contributions throughout the year, our human capital team performs a benchmarking study for salaries, and that is basically very much to address the issue of retention and attraction of talent. How do we compare to the marketplace if we were to retain the talent that we have, and also if we were to recruit talent at some point? Based on that information, the human capital team made the recommendation to make 3 adjustments. We call those market-based adjustments. They're not necessarily related to performance, but it's really for retention and benchmarking purposes. And those are to our Chief Operating Officer, to our Vice President of Human Capital, and our Vice President of Systems Transformation in the ranges of 4%, 4%, and 5.5%, respectively. So what you're going to see here, what do you see on the table? And we can jump to you don't have a table, but the table that was presented, it's online and it was presented on Tuesday, shows those increases. I'm happy to talk about any particular accomplishment for any of the vice presidents, but at this point, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Any clarifying questions now? Do any members of the public in the room have a comment on this action item? If so, please approach the podium in the center of the room.
David Bagley, 4611 South 96th Street. Here's my input. Jody Baker welcomes it. I have zero problem with any of the compensation of any of your vice presidents. I think they all do an excellent job in my experience, and Mr. Market really sets the numbers for them. And all my interactions have been really quite civil and respectful. Jeff Bishop just last month, Javier always looks me straight in the eyes. I've always had nice discussions with Brad Underwood. And if you don't get K Junction passed, don't blame Brad. I'll tell you that. Lisa Olson, Mikhail Pender, and Scott Folk. These are the people I've dealt with. The problem at OPPD is not with the employees, it's with the board of directors. And the main problem is pursuing that unlawful and unfoolish SD7. And I listened to your little committee meeting earlier this week. I'll have more comments about that. It really is astounding that you are pursuing a policy.
Can you clarify how this is related to the corporate officer compensation?
I'm not getting to that, Mr. Chairman. Please don't take away from my time. I said the employees are doing great. It's the board is the problem. And you don't have statutory authority to pursue this SD7. And it's the biggest unforced error in Nebraska public policy history. Now, here's a little mental experiment I think you should perform. What would OPPD's rates and revenues look like if SD7 was repealed? What if the employees were pursuing and building a large nat gas baseload power plant in Washington or Burke counties? Well, I'll tell you what'll happen. OPPD would be the biggest low-cost provider of electricity in this country. And it would be supercharging our economy here in Omaha. The other thing that really has bothered me is a number of you directors don't pay attention to me. You won't even look me in the eye. And I think that's really quite disrespectful. Respect is a two-way street. So you Dems have the votes here on the board. And you're supposed to be public servants, and you're supposed to follow the law, and you are supposed to be concerned with the economic well-being of the customer owners and not pursuing your own private global warming agenda. I'll remind you of the
30
story I
seconds.
told you about my classmate at Creighton, Judge Sandra Doherty. She's a Catholic, and she sent some people to the death penalty. So what you are doing, you are ignoring your statutory duty and public opinion. People don't know about this net zero policy, and they don't agree with it. They don't want to pay higher rates, and there will be rates. This is really astounding to me. You're ignoring public opinion and your statutory duty. Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments in the room? Is not. This is public comment specifically about corporate officer compensation adjustments. We have comments online on this particular item. Directors, any additional comments? Discussion? Director Moody.
I'll hop in just to echo what Director Bogner said. What I'm mindful of is the increasing complexity and magnitude of the work that we have in front of us and how important leadership is going to be to make sure that that goes successfully. And in my view, Javier, you've built an exceptional team of leaders. And the last thing that I want to do is go through that transition without these people leading us. So for me, this is all about honoring the exceptional work that they've put in already and making sure that we can do everything in our power to retain them. Thank you.
I'll just follow up on that, just to say I think that we are so fortunate and very pleased to have the right team for this particular point in time when we're doing normal business and then we're doing not normal business. And we want to keep them. So I think this compensation is quite appropriate. Thank you.
Great, and I would echo the comments that I appreciate the work that our executives have done for this organization, both in bringing us to where we are now and in preparing us for the future. So thank you all for your work over the last year, and thank you, Javier, for the team you have assembled. With that, please call the roll.
Director Bogner,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Core,
Yes.
Director Howard,
Yes.
Director Mulhoff,
Yes.
Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries. The second board discussion action item is CEO Performance Review and Compensation Adjustment Resolution Number 6655. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the compensation adjustment for the President and Chief Executive Officer, L. Javier Fernandez, as set forth on Exhibit A, attached hereto, be and hereby is approved.
So move.
Second.
All right, we spent considerable time on Tuesday talking about the CEO performance evaluation that the board has undertaken over the last month. And we're here today to talk and vote on a compensation adjustment. Again, similarly to the vice presidents, this is definitely a retaining type of action, but it's also an acknowledgement of the excellent work that you have done over the last year, Javier. We certainly, most of the conversation that we had on Tuesday was in closed session, but I do think that one of my directors said it really well that day, saying we have the exact CEO that we need in this moment that also has the leadership characteristics that will carry us forward to that powering the 50-20-50 vision that you have so eloquently laid out for us. And so want to be very appreciative of that. And so with that, I'll just open it up to board questions.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Well, just a clarifying question. Does this include bonuses or is this the compensation that we
Oh.
see before this is what is gotten?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So at OPPD, we only pay salary. So there is no other form of compensation that happens beyond the benefits package of insurance and 401k and those kinds of things. But this is base salary, and you'll see on the exhibit that it has two parts to it. A market adjustment of 5% because when we have done this study compared to other CEOs at public power and investor utility owned power, we know that our salary is falling grossly behind. We're in the bottom quartile of salary and base salary of what we pay our CEO. And then we also have the 4.25% merit adjustment, and that reflects the above expectations category of performance. So thank you for the question and the opportunity to clarify that.
And the specific information was presented on screen and was available on Tuesday as part of the committee meeting package and is available online now as part of the board meeting agenda. Oh, this one is on screen. Wonderful. Thank you, Erin. No additional clarifying questions. Does anyone in the room have a comment on the CEO compensation and performance review item? Does anyone online have a comment on this item? Do any directors have additional comments about this item?
Only to pile on and echo everything that Director Bogner said. Yeah, echo, that's all.
So, I only have a few months left on this board. And I think that it's important for me to say at this time, because I won't be here next year, that it's been a real pleasure working with you. And I really value your expertise, your commitment, your engagement in the community, and everything you've done in your tenure here, both as CFO and as CEO. So thank you very much.
I would also echo the appreciation. I had the good fortune of having a chance to talk with you directly yesterday, along with Director Bogner. The review was very positive. I think the compensation increase is based on excellent performance of the last year, and I appreciate the work that has been done, and again, look forward to the continuing of what we have outlined in our vision and the actions that are in process. So thank you for everything you have done, and I look forward to continuing to work with you into the future. And with that, please call the roll.
Director Bogner,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Corr,
Yes.
Director Howard,
Yes.
Director Mulhoff,
Yes.
Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next item on our agenda is the President's report.
Thank you, Director Williams. So as usual, I'm going to begin with the performance of our base load generation. These are our coal-fired power plants. You can see Nebraska, both Nebraska City Unit 1 and North Omaha Unit 5 had a capacity factor of 0, and that is because they are in planned outage. A couple of those, they've been extended. The outage has been extended as we continue to bring those units back to good operational standing in time to meet the demands of our customer owners for the summer. We're getting into the highest usage rate of the year, which is in the summer months because of air conditioning units, and it's important for us to pay close attention, have those units back online. For the month of May, both units were offline. Nebraska City Unit 2 and Unit 4 were available pretty much all month long, and you can see their capacity factor was 58 and 57% respectively. This shows also the integration of wind resources. So this is where you've experienced. We've had a very stormy spring, April and May, and of course with those high winds come additional sources of energy with wind generation, and it has allowed us to flex our baseload generation in a way that's reflected in here with the baseload generation percentages. Going forward to our balancing generation, which is incredibly important, especially at this time of the year as we're integrating renewable resources and meeting load requirements. It saw slightly higher usage than in other times of the year. Cass County, both units had a capacity factor of 5%, Jones Street 1.2%. Our Sarpy County units saw quite a bit of activity, 8.5%. Even our North Omaha Unit 1 saw activity, that's unusual. We usually see those units online much later in the year, in the June, July, August timeframe. But we did see activity with the North Omaha Unit 1. North Omaha Unit 3 had slightly higher activity. Again, we're using natural gas to fire these units to help integrate wind resources as they come into the system. I look forward to, in the next few months, I'm going to be reporting on an even longer list here as Turtle Creek Station and Standing Bear Lake Station come online. But for now, enjoy the one pager here because it may take me a couple of pages. Next, the third part, a very, very important part of our generation portfolio, it's our renewables. I talked quite a bit about that. Just as a reminder, we have close to 1,000 megawatts. That's 1 gigawatt of renewables, mostly in the form of wind generation. That capacity factor was almost 53%. Very high capacity factor. Again, wind has been blowing quite a bit, and we've been enjoying the benefits of that wind generation. But also, days are getting longer, and you can see that reflected in the capacity factor for our community solar of 29%. And I am thrilled to present for the first time ever the capacity factor for a Platteview solar farm of 30.2%. It's the first time that I'm presenting these. This solar farm came online on May 1st. So we have literally 1 full month of operations, and I'm happy to report that capacity factor of 30.2%. Just as expected, no, very predictable. We knew these are coming in line with our expectations. Next slide, please. I'm going to go into activities with the community. Cinco de Mayo, the Cinco de Mayo parade, which didn't happen on Cinco de Mayo, but we still celebrated that on May 11th. The members of the Latino Society at OPPD, employees and their families participated on the parade in South Omaha, reinforcing our core values of honoring the communities we serve. It was a ton of fun, good food, good music, and I got really good reports from all of our employees who attended. Another event in South Omaha that happened just a week after the Cinco de Mayo parade was on May 18th. We partnered once again with Habitat for Humanity in Omaha to participate in the Rock the Block event. And we did this alongside the Latino Economic Development Council, the South Omaha Business Improvement District, and the South Omaha Community Care Council, where more than 100 volunteers from OPPD and the community spruced up neighborhoods, revitalized homes, as well as doing some beautification along South 24th Street. And I'm glad we did these when the weather was not as hot as it is right now, and our volunteers had a good time. Next event, please. That was the APPA Day of Giving. APPA stands for the American Public Power Association. Utilities across the country participating in the Day of Giving. For us was June 7th, where our employees joined other utilities in volunteering. We were participating in everything from drywall demolition and cleanup for Omaha Rapid Response, helping at the food bank for the Heartland, supporting activities and stocking grocery bags at the Intercultural Senior Center, and assisting families at the Salvation Army. This is probably one of the favorite events. I get a lot of feedback from employees who really appreciate OPPD support in allowing them to participate and volunteer in the communities we serve, really living out our core values. Next slide, please. I am thrilled to report on this one. I was able to participate on the Community Resource Fair that was held on June 6th, the afternoon of June 6th at the Salem Baptist Church. As a public power utility, OPPD invested in helping our communities to thrive, and that involves more than ensuring reliable electricity. At our listening session in North Omaha a couple of years ago, we received feedback from customers that they wanted to see OPPD more active and visible in the community. We researched and benchmarked with other public power utilities in ways they engage in their communities. And in this particular case, we work with CPS Energy in San Antonio to learn more about their community fairs. And so this one was modeled after one of our public power sister organizations. So that day on June 7th at the Salem Baptist Church in North Omaha, we held our first community resource fair with 15 nonprofit agencies and OPPD's customer care representatives on site. And this one-stop fair served over 300 customers from 120 households in a 2-hour time frame. It was packed. It was well attended, lots of energy in the room, lots of issues a lot of people and organizations trying to help our community members with different needs. It provided $29,924 in energy assistance that was distributed to 82 customers. We were able to enroll 39 customers in the Customer Assistance Program pilot program. We assisted 15 customers who were not eligible for assistance by enrolling them in the payment installment program at OPPD to help them get caught up on their bill. And we're actively working with 10 customers who attended the fair on providing documentation to approve their application for energy assistance. It's really hard to prove the negative. You don't know if these wouldn't have happened without the fair, but it was fantastic to see our community coming together and really working with our customer owners in meeting the different needs they had in that one day. It was inspiring, and I believe it was very effective. Last, but certainly not least, this is where we always remember those who we've lost in the line of duty. In this case is Herschel Lunsford, who died on April 17 of 1947. OPPD was just 1 year old as the Omaha Public Power District when this happened. This happened as a result of electrocution he sustained while straightening a pole in the 66 kV line near 108th and Blondo in Omaha. Cotton, as he was known, was 40 years old with 19 years at OPPD at the time of his death. He was survived by his wife, Geraldine, and 2 sons, Gene and Dennis. And that concludes my president's report.
Thank you very much. Last item on our agenda is opportunity for public comment on other items of district business. If anyone in the room has a comment, please approach the podium.
David Begley, 4611 South 96th Street. At the end of the April 18th meeting, Creighton Professor Ryan Wishart said I was a crackpot. I filed a complaint with the Creighton Provost because that's contra to the Creighton Code of Conduct. So my question to you, or what I'm asserting, is if Begley's a crackpot for not believing in global warming, what about the Nobel Prize winner in physics, Dr. James Clauser? You know, whose side do you want to be on? Clauser's side and Begley's side, or Professor Wishart? I'm with the Nobel Prize winner. How about you? Now, at the June 6, 2024 North Omaha meeting, Professor Wishart didn't know how much it's going to cost for you to achieve net zero by 2050. Well, your own consultant said $28 billion in 2020 dollars. Now, I listened to your little committee meeting, and over an hour on SD7, nobody brought up the $28 billion number. There was an oblique reference at 311 about how costs and rates might go up. Well, that is really highly irresponsible. I think you need to consider and figure out how much this is going to cost. Now, at the last meeting, I didn't get to tell you about the Berkshire Hathaway report. You know, everybody says demand's up. Scamming, Warren Buffett says, has always been part of the American scheme. And as I've told you many times, global warming is the biggest scam in the history of the world. So let me explain to you a little bit about the nature and scope of the global warming scam. This is a great quote from Saul Bellow, a great novelist. A great deal of intelligence can be invested in ignorance when the need for illusion is deep. Part of my problem, or big problem here, is you've got a lot of talented employees, and they're all invested in this illusion about net zero and that carbon dioxide is a pollutant. It's not a pollutant. Only because of a 5-4 SCOTUS decision is it considered one. Wood Mackenzie says 11.8 billion in CapEx is going to be spent on this global warming business. So this is all subsidized, and we've got these incredibly generous tax credits. That's what drives all this solar and wind. So, the experience has been in Germany, and I'll get to that right now. They've been on this global
30
warming
seconds.
thing for a long time. And their power rates are 43 cents a kilowatt hour, while your rates for residential customers is 10 cents an hour, or 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And Germany's GDP has declined in Q4 2023. So it's absolutely clear this net zero is going to triple rates. It's going to crush our economies, and the Chinese are going to be the main beneficiaries. Thank you very much.
Javier, response?
Not really a response, just to
Clarification.
clarification,
Thank
very
you.
important to clarify. We've never really commissioned, we haven't had a consultant ever talk about a plan that will cost $28 billion. Those are numbers that have been floated around and derived from other sources, but just to be clear, that has not been the case.
Appreciate the clarification. Does anyone else in the room have a comment on another item of district business?
I'm Jennifer Glazer, and I live at 105 South 93rd Avenue. And I first want to say just thank you to the board members for listening to the recent public comments. It was very evident from your meeting the other day that you were listening and paying attention to those. I am commenting on behalf of Citizens Climate Lobby, the Omaha chapter. We have over 2,000 members in the state of Nebraska, 2,000 members in the state of Nebraska and over 200,000 across the country. And as most of you know, CCL advocates for a price on pollution with a carbon cashback as an efficient and economically sound method for decarbonization. Locally, we are asking for 80% reduction of emissions by 2035 as compared to the 2013 levels. CCL also recognizes that the effects of pollution and environmental degradation fall most heavily on communities that are marginalized in our society. CCL acknowledges the legacy of racially biased policies in creating and perpetuating this imbalance. We know that the effects of climate change are already disproportionately hurting those under-resourced communities, and that it will only get worse if we don't eliminate harmful emissions. Citizens Climate believes in the dignity of every person, that all of us should have access to clean water, clean air, and healthy food. We believe that these disparities must be addressed while we transition to a zero-emissions economy. We feel the draft language proposed on SD7 does not go far enough to address the urgency of what is needed to decarbonize, and simply outlines what is already in place. Nor does the draft proposed address the above stated environmental justice issues in our own community. Please consider an accelerated timeline for carbonization, such as 80% reduction of emissions by 2035. And please also add environmental justice language to your environmental stewardship directive.
Thank you. Are there additional comments in the room?
Hi, I'm Sandy Lair, 9737 Brentwood Road, Omaha 68114. I thank you for continuing to revise SD7 and appreciate that you're working towards a net zero carbon future. However, in the latest SD7 draft, I do not see an emphasis on reducing these emissions on an imperative basis. While I appreciate your interim metrics, they simply look to be quantifying the expected closures of the coal plants by their operational life. Even if we reach the net zero by 2050 goal, the intervening years in which there are no meaningful emissions reductions result in significant continued emissions, which have a compounding effect of worsening our climate, as well as negatively affecting customer owners' health, rather than promoting their, quote, well-being as detailed in your draft. Each year that OPPD's coal plants continue as is, they release millions of tons of toxic chemicals in our air. Yes, we all appreciate our air conditioning, but there are cleaner ways to power this energy available. And I urge the board to hold management to reducing emissions in an accelerated manner by achieving benchmarks such as an 80% reduction in emissions by 2035 compared to their 2013 level. This reduction isn't even in compliance with the new EPA rules, which specify 90% reduction by 2039. However, this would at least get OPPD further down the road to increasing emissions reductions and acknowledge that it should be looking into aspirational goals to improve its customer owners' well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments in the room?
Thank you for considering ratepayer owner comments. My name is Kay Karn at 14305 White Deer Lane. I echo the comments we've heard from the last two that SD7 as presented is inadequate. Continuing to operate the coal plants until the end of their useful life, which is what I think I heard at Tuesday's meeting, is not recognizing the public input. Since 2016, the voters of OPPD service territory have elected this board of intelligent, balanced, and thoughtful board members who clearly support addressing climate change and reducing the environmental footprint. Beyond elections, the public has commented through many avenues of the importance of emissions reduction in a consistent and urgent manner. I appreciate the discontinuance of burning coal in North Omaha 4 and 5, and I look forward to cleaner air in my community. I appreciate reliable power, and I agree with you, living in the semi-rural area that I'm in and having lost power twice in the last week for multiple hours each time, reliability needs to be the strongest of the stool of three, in affordable, reliable, and environmentally sensitive power. But I think there needs to be more of a balance between affordable and environmentally sensitive. I think there needs to be more investment in proven lower emission technologies to reduce emissions on a faster timescale. When I see rates are at a staggering 28% below the national average for commercial rates, I think that we should look at emissions reductions and setting a goal that's below the national average. I think OPPD is on par with national emissions reductions, but I'd like to see a goal in SD7 of 80% emissions reductions by 2035. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Yes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leanne Pates. I live at 17226 Williams Circle in Omaha. And I would like to, again, echo what has been said before me, thanking the board for what you have done so far with SD7. But I would also like to go on record and say I strongly urge the board to consider pushing for faster decarbonization as is currently stated in SD7. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, good evening. My name is Perry Nealon. I'm at 625 North 189th Street in Elkhorn. I'm here today as a spokesperson for Welcome Home Coalition. As you may already know, remember, Welcome Home is a nonprofit coalition that includes individuals, businesses, financial institutions, and other nonprofits. Our focus is on enhancing the regulatory environment in our communities, including processes and delays. According to a recent National Association of Home Builders study, government regulations make up 23.8% of the final price of a new single-family home nationally. Governor Pillen often cites a UNO study which states that regulations account for 32.8% of the cost of a house in the Omaha metro area. You are no doubt aware that developers are required to pay OPPD millions of dollars at the beginning of a project. You may not be aware that it's often taking well over a year to get power to a project. This not only results in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in carrying costs for the developer, who passes those costs on to the builder, who passes them on to the eventual home buyer. It is also delaying bringing those homes to marketplace at all. Developers in Omaha have thousands of lots waiting to be powered up by OPPD. However, you are backlogged by more than a year, possibly 2 years, getting power to these lots. We have discussed this concerning situation with OPPD staff for over a year and have only very recently been promised action. We had numerous testifiers prepared to come to this state the status of your progress, but we're going to hold off for a couple months to give you time to implement those promises. The National Association of Home Builders data updated in 2023 shows that for every $1,000 increase in the price of a home in the Lincoln metro area, 70 households are priced out of the market. In the Omaha Council Bluffs metro area, that number jumps to 435 households. According to the Greater Omaha Multiple Listing Service, The average closed price of a new construction home in the Omaha metro area for 2023 was over $483,000. In December of last year alone, that number was $512,000. That makes it extremely difficult for teachers, first responders, small business owners to afford a new construction home. That wasn't the case just 5 years ago. We want to work with you, your staff, and other organizations to find non-taxpayer subsidized solutions to make it possible for families in every neighborhood in the Omaha metro area. to
30
own a home.
seconds.
The delays of power to new neighborhoods has limited development of new homes to maybe 2,000 houses in the Douglas and Sarpy County area for 2024. This market demands twice that number. This limited supply means higher prices. It's that simple. Your development team is the private sector that wants to bring you new customers. We appreciate your willingness to make meaningful change to get us out of this housing crisis. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Additional comments?
I think I got it right. Yes. Thank you. Cheryl Weston, went to Omaha, Nebraska, 68102. As others said, I listened to the committee meeting, and I want to thank you for listening to the comments of the public, because that's what you are, public power. So briefly, I would like to see, oh, I should have said also I'm a member of the North Omaha OPPD Coal Plant Ad Hoc Committee. It's a lot, but we would like to see more put on as environmental justice, if you would have more wording in that. And that should, EPA says that there are two components: environmental equity, ensuring that the environmental risks and harms are shared proportionally; more community-based public engagement; and consolation, ensuring that all people have equal voice. And that is why I have this, because you need to require that the staff do more community engagement with other than certain designated groups. And thank you, because your presentation at Salem Baptist Church proved this point. When you start using other organizations instead of the same ones over and over again, where you're not getting total community involvement, you don't get the participation, you don't get to hear what people in the community are saying. At that committee meeting that you held, it was stated, and I'm paraphrasing, we didn't meet our goals with North Omaha, but we did right by that community. I beg you, you did not do right by the North Omaha community, because you had promised to have the power coal plant done by this year, or 2023, and it didn't happen. So you did not do right, but you can do right by doing things that's going to help those individuals who are spending more and more of their money into having to pay for the burden efficiencies because they don't have energy efficient homes.
30 seconds.
It was also said that the rates are low. OPPD's rates are the lowest. Well, that depends on where you live, because if you live east of 72nd Street, because you have homes that are not energy efficient, because you're not getting involved with grants that are out there, such as Justice Initiative 40, those individuals are paying more. West of 72nd, you may only pay $100 a month during this hot time. If you live north of 72nd, your bill is anywhere from $300 to $400. That's the reason why you have so many individuals that have to come and try to pay their bills in supplements. I think that if the board would listen and continue, you're on the right track, because you're doing change.
And that's time.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Additional comments in the room?
Ryan Wishart, 912 North 49th Street, Omaha 68132. I want to thank the board for recognizing the need to make revisions to SD7 that reflect constituent desires for targets in line with science and that makes environmental justice an explicit goal. I won't repeat comments here I sent to the board via the contact form, but I would point out that the APPA notes in its white paper released this January, environmental justice is broadly defined by 4 principles: restorative, distributive, procedural, and recognition justice. I'm happy to share via correspondence later a short summary of these aspects I've been working on as part of other research this summer, drawing from the academic literature and the 5th National Climate Assessment as you draft your language. Distributive considerations include both environmental goods like green space and harms like pollution. And so I would suggest that SD7 is the correct place to include such a commitment. Having read back through a couple papers this week on factors affecting the carbon intensity of human well-being, I can tell you that while environmental and climate justice are dynamic topics, they aren't qualitatively more so than how to define or measure the already stated goal of customer well-being. So I wouldn't let that hold you all back. I apologize for being too slow on the consent agenda call, but I didn't see mention of the customer assistance program in the slides and discussion on rates Tuesday. I was hoping there might be an update on whether the customer assistance program has been able to meet its enrollment goals, and if on-bill financing is not being pursued, what other steps the utility may be taking to act on reducing energy burden in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, we have received a number of comments on SD7, and I would clarify because the meeting was relatively long. At the end of the meeting on Tuesday, we highlighted that the language will be back to the Systems Committee for additional consideration, and then we'll come back to the board for future consideration and a public comment period in the future. We anticipate that at the August meeting, as we do not have a meeting in July. So I appreciate all the comments, and just clarifying for anyone who was not able to stick it out through the entire committee meeting, that is recorded and available on our YouTube channel. Are there any other comments in the room on any items of district business?
Joanne Jackson, 907 Road 2, Fairmont, Nebraska, Hayes Township, York County, Nebraska. I represent myself. The roles I enjoy for myself are being a wife, mother, and grandmother, and that's why I'm here today. Our son lives by McCool Junction, and if K Junction solar goes through, he'll live across the section from 640 acres of solar panels. We believe the project in Saunders County is 500 acres. And so that's divided between 3 different locations. And the 640 acres would be more than that, plus the additional 2,160 acres on prime farmland if it's developed. We don't know what the health effects will be if this goes through. I was told the other evening that these large renewable projects are not being built to benefit the large data centers in Sarpy County. According to an October 19th, 2017 WOWT article, the representative from Facebook said that their new data center in Papillion would be powered with 100% clean and renewable energy. The company said to ensure we are able to power our Papillion data center with clean and renewable energy, we come together with OPPD to create a new tariff that ensures the renewable energy solutions are accessible not just to Facebook, but to other companies as well. Facebook's goal was 100% clean and renewable energy. Facebook worked with OPPD and Trade Wind Energy to build the Rattlesnake Creek Wind Project. The article said it was expected to add 320 megawatts of wind energy to the electrical grid, to which 200 megawatts would be allocated to the Facebook data center. Is it possible that some of these data centers
30 seconds.
purchase renewable energy certificates to offset their emissions? Does OPPD need the K Junction solar project to fulfill and ensure renewable energy is accessible to the data centers? Thank you for your time.
CEO Fernandez, do you have a clarification?
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming all the way from your county. Just a quick clarification. Electrons go where electrons go, so it's impossible for us to guarantee where electrons go. But in this case, the case that you mentioned, we deliver a specific rate 261M, where large customers like a data center, they procure their own energy through projects, renewable projects that they have across the region. And we're able to supply that energy from those projects. And I think that the comment that was made was in those terms. Of course, guaranteeing the exact electron traveling to the exact load is impossible, but that's pretty much the construct. And I really, really appreciate the comment.
Other comments in the room?
Thank you for letting me appear before you. My name is James Jackson, 907 Road 2, Fairmont. I want to put a little face on the farming end of this. I'm a farmer and I'm darn proud of it. We're supposed to double our food production by 2050. Okay, you're taking 3,000 acres out of my township. I'll give you a little face of that project. Hayes Township runs from the Fillmore County line, which is just at the top of the hill, 81, on Highway 81. You come up from Fillmore County. When you drop down there, you're in Hayes Township. You go to the north, 2 miles south of the interstate, that's the next township's Baker. To the west, you go to G. That's at least 8 miles, because all our townships are 8 by 8. That road runs to Grafton, just east of Lushton. Okay, the soil I farm is part of the same class as 7% of the Earth's crust. The topsoil is pretty thick and there's no rocks for I don't know how many feet down. The same soil like in Russia, the borders of China, Argentina, and of course where we're supplying all the supplies for the fight the Russians. 18% of the land in the United States is irrigated, and 90% of this 3,000 acres is irrigated. There are some other factors. The United States government owns 20% of the land in the United States. Solar panels do not need any soil. They could care less whether it's got too much nitrogen or no phosphorus or nothing. You just need something to hold it up. Maybe a continuous drone or hang them to the windmills. They're pretty inefficient. One of the things I learned, we have attendees first we had it from the developer, the original developer, now we get it from OPPD. But anyway, one time I was listening to the weather, it was in the wintertime. And
30 seconds.
Man, one of his presentations is the question of for you to answer while he's doing the weather. He wanted to know how many days of sunshine are there average in Lincoln in January. The answer is 8. So anyway, there should be, I just want you to know that I live 17 miles from anywhere, little towns, but I'm sorry that I'm running over, but the farm is part of me, and I would not do that to my land. The neighbors can do it if they want to, but there's got to be a better way, and at least communicate with us. The outfit before, and we always talk to us downhill, and it's like a military secret. We don't know any more than we did 3 years ago. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time and your comments as well. Are there any additional comments in the room? Are there comments online?
Kenneth Winston.
Hello, Ken, can you hear us?
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ken Winston. I'm appearing on behalf of Nebraska Interfaith Power and Light and the Nebraska Sierra Club. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. First of all, I wanted to say congratulations to the work of the board and staff in creating and maintaining a first-rate public electric utility. You have low rates, high levels of reliability, and the discussion about SD7 shows your commitment to environmental sustainability. I also want to say thank you to the board for returning the draft of SD7 to committee. There are several revisions which should be made before it is made available to the public for comment or before it's presented. First is environmental justice, and Director Williams and several other directors commented about this. Director Williams noted there were several aspects of generating and distributing electric power and the causes and effects of climate change which have disproportionately negative impacts on certain communities. Environmental justice is widely recognized by many agencies and organizations, including the EPA and the American Public Power Association. OPPD's own maps demonstrate this. The community with the greatest energy burden is the North Omaha area. This is also the community with the largest number of environmental health hazards, including the emissions from the North Omaha coal plant and their corresponding health impacts on members of that community. Heat-related impacts are felt more significantly by low-income households and communities because they often live in housing that's poorly insulated and has poor heating and cooling systems. Environmental justice should be considered an opportunity, not a liability. There are numerous federal grants that are focused on Justice 40 communities such as North and South Omaha, and there are new economic opportunities for those communities from state legislation introduced by Senator McKinney and Senator Wayne. OPPD should partner with the city and state officials to maximize the benefit of these programs. SD7 should also include language that recognizes customer energy efficiency and customer generation. The current language of SD7 has language regarding that, but this would be stricken in the draft. We encourage you to either restore that language or create new language that more strongly supports these goals. The Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance provided testimony in support of that. Also would like to point out a couple of other things. The draft city climate action plan for the city of Omaha suggests a goal of achieving a 54% decline in greenhouse gas emissions from buildings. This would include a 10% energy efficiency improvement and a 15% increase in customer generated electricity. OPPD will need to play a major role in order for those goals to be achieved. In addition, energy efficiency is the lowest cost energy resource. It creates jobs and provides benefits throughout the economy. It also increases stability and reliability of the energy system by decreasing peak demand. Finally, we hope that you're open to input from the public. We'd be glad to assist in providing language related to environmental justice, energy efficiency, and customer generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additional comments online?
John Pollock.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. I'd like to, in the interest of time, say that I'm in a substantial agreement with the comments you just heard. Also, Ryan Wishart, Cheryl Weston, Kay Karn, and Sandy Lair, whom you heard earlier. Regarding the weather, we kind of are in the transition between our summer weather pattern, which we're going into, and the spring weather pattern, which of course we had a lot of severe weather. What we're having is an unusually early buildup of a heat dome, which has already heavily affected the eastern U.S. And so far we've been spared most of that, but our temperatures are going to be running above normal in general, probably for the next several weeks, well into July. It's hard to say how severe our heat wave is going to be. However, it's already clear that this particular heat dome has been packed with a lot of humidity. So even if the temperatures aren't exceptional, we're going to be seeing a lot of high heat indices as the summer weather proceeds. In addition, the boundary between that heat dome and the jet stream to the north does produce some severe weather, and with the moisture conditions, it'll be producing a lot of flooding. The severe weather is not as concentrated as we've seen this spring in particular, or spring in general, but you'll still have sporadic instances, especially of strong winds, hail, the possibility of a derecho, and those can be very damaging. So we're also going to be looking at a heavy rain pattern, especially north of us. I would anticipate that in the next month, we'll be seeing unusually large amount of water coming out of the northern stretches of the Missouri River for this time of year. It doesn't look as drastic as some of the major flooding years, but we are not going to be dealing with a low water situation anytime soon. We're going to be dealing with higher water than usual for this time of year. And that pretty well wraps it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additional comments online? We do have one additional point of clarification regarding comments received earlier. CEO Fernandez.
Yes, I made a comment earlier, and I want to clarify, Mr. Beckley, you do your homework really well, so I want to make sure that I clarify. There was a study that was done many years ago, and it studied scenarios, pathways to decarbonization. I believe that's where the number came from. My comment was really about plans, concrete plans that we have going forward. We really haven't quoted that amount, but it was a good call from my team. Thank you for letting me clarify.
Thank you. And that concludes our agenda for today. I hope everyone enjoyed celebrating Juneteenth and everyone is enjoying celebrating Pride Month. And with that, we are adjourned.